So I've been meaning to make this video for a long time. It's about something that's very dear to me. It is, you know, it's actually the first time that I've ever opened up about it. And the reason for that was because we were involved in a lawsuit against a huge hospital who injured our son. It was a church hospital, right? It was a Mormon hospital. And we didn't want like the jury looking at us badly and thinking that we were just a bunch of crazy ex-Mormons. Turns out that they did that anyways. And so I totally could have made this video, and it might have added a bunch of perspective to everything. But I wanted to talk about my journey leaving the Mormon Church. I've been on several podcasts and I've talked about it. I've given little hints about it on the Pulse Ox podcast, but I wanted to go into detail so that people know my story and so that they know that it had nothing to do with like wanting to sin. I think a lot of Mormons, they look at ex-Mormons as just people that want to, drink coffee and have sex before marriage and do drugs and stuff like that. And most of the time it has absolutely nothing to do with that. My understanding is that most people leave the church because they just don't feel welcome. They don't feel the love from the community. And that was not the case with me. Here I am, a white male. And so a predominantly white dominated patriarchal system really super worked for me. I thrived in the church. I had a wonderful community. I had incredible mentorship. I was able to graduate to the status of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts program before it all got weird and the church distanced themselves from it. So I just want to tell a story, give a little bit of background, help you understand the hard parts of the journey, and then how I was able to come through on the other side much more spiritually resilient. I was born and raised in the church. I was baptized when I was 8 years old by my dad. Everybody in my family was very active. They always held callings in the church, whether they were activity coordinators or bishop members. We ran the church. I passed the sacrament. I broke the bread. I did all of that stuff. We went every single Sunday. We did what's called family home evening, where you get together every Monday night and you have a song and a lesson and a treat and games. And I mean, we were into it. We drank the sauce big time. So as I was growing up, there were a couple of critical events that changed the trajectory of my experience with the church. The first of those is Avatar: The Last Airbender. So if you haven't ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, repent and do better, because it is one of the most magnificent shows that has ever been produced in this reality. I've got a tattoo of Zuko's mask from the show on my arm. And the significance of that is this character Zuko goes through such a massive transformation from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. The arc that he has it's this classic, failure of a son, ends up redeeming himself and finding his own way, but it's just told in such a beautiful way. So that show introduced me to the concept of chakras, and that's going to become really important as I tell the rest of the story. So that's the first thing, is watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. The second thing was actually my dad having issues with his spirituality when I was like 14 or 15. So he started exploring Buddhism. And I remember thinking, as a teenager, right, who knows freaking nothing, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like my dad is just totally turning his back on his family. Like, how could he do this? How could he, he's the priesthood holder in our home. Like, this is pathetic. He has no spiritual strength. I remember thinking and feeling all those things, and it caused a big rift to form between he and I during that time. And I come to find out that he was on a beautiful part of his spiritual journey, and one of the consequences of that was having his son misunderstand what he was going through and not being able to empathize, because I had been raised this very, straight line type of thinking. Even though, I realize now that my parents aren't perfect, and my dad was, for all intents and purposes, he was a total hippie. He was an inactive Catholic kid growing up here in San Antonio, doing whatever he wanted. And then he found the church and had a magnificently powerful spiritual experience. But it didn't buoy him through the hard times. So he found Buddhism. He found Eckhart Tolle. I read The Power of Now, and he tried to get me into that, and I was just like, I don't want to hear anything from you, like you home wrecking old man. It was such a weird place for me to be in. So those were two critical events. I eventually, I graduated high school and I went up to Brigham Young University. My options at the time were Stanford, UT Austin, American University in Washington, D.C. I got accepted to all of those. I had various scholarships. I had a 60K scholarship to Montana State University as well, but I was like, what the heck? How different my life would it be if I went to Montana? But anyways, I I went up to school, had a beautiful experience. I loved BYU. I loved the campus. I loved the people. I loved my teachers. I loved the curriculum. It was all really amazing. I went on a mission. I got called to serve in the Missouri Independence Mission. And partway through the mission, almost exactly a year to the day, they split the mission in half and they formed the Kansas Wichita mission. And I was absorbed into that mission. So we had basically all of Kansas, a little piece of Colorado, some of Oklahoma, and we were responsible for helping the good people of Kansas get closer to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And it was a grind, man. I had a bunch of really crappy companions. I had some really great companions that have become some of my best friends and mentors over the years. We had an amazing mission president who was flawed in all of his perfect ways. And I met my wife while I was there. She was a missionary. She started basically as soon as that mission was split and became the Kansas Wichita mission. I met her for the first time in Topeka, and it wasn't love at first sight for her. It was love at first sight for me. I knew that she was going to be the woman that I married, and that's an inside joke that has prevailed in our relationship of who loved who first, and I think that's for most couples. But anyways, I go home, and thankfully on the mission I was exposed to a lot of really new, really cool ideas, but I was still very narrow-minded. There was a third thing that happened before I got married and went on a bunch of adventures. There was a general conference talk that was given by the then apostle Russell M. Nelson. And he basically made the analogy dissing on the Big Bang. And here I am, like in an astronomy class, right, at Brigham Young University, learning about the origins of the universe. And this old man gets on and says, could an explosion in a print shop really produce a dictionary? And I thought for a moment, and I go, the God that I believe in absolutely could make that happen, right? The intelligent design doesn't mean that there wasn't some catastrophically powerful super event that brought the universe into being. And I remember I went over to one of my really good friends' apartment in the girls section across in Glenwood, and I was like, guys, like, did you hear that last part that he just said? Like, I can't believe it. And they're like, dude, what are you worried about? That was a great talk. And I was like, okay, maybe the issue is me. So fast forward, I get married, have a kid, and the things that I'm doing in my life at that point are going to school, working my butt off, serving really actively in the church, going every single day, serving in the community several times a week. And life was difficult. We had a bunch of issues with our son. My startup was failing. It just was not doing well. It was a lot of stress. It was a lot of pressure. And I remember reading, I studied the scriptures every day. And we were in Alma 34, and I was looking at 3rd Nephi, basically 20 through 27. I was looking at Enos as well, this single chapter book in the Book of Mormon. And in all of these really beautiful passages, the people prayed, and they weren't looking for signs. They weren't looking for divine intervention or anything crazy. They were looking for comfort, and God promised them that they would get it. And so I was going to God every single day, and I was praying my heart out, giving thanks and trying to be as humble as possible, just saying, please, I need support. I need help. I need to feel good. I don't need you to take away the problems. I just need that like spirit. I need that feeling. And it just wouldn't come. It wasn't coming. I wasn't blocked by anything. I was just stressed and angry and I was trying my best to let those feelings go. And I finally got to this point where I felt like the windows of heaven were completely closed to me. And I'm summarizing about a year of heavy study. I was talking with mentors, I was talking with spiritual leaders, I was taking religion classes in school, I was reading the scriptures every single day, I was diving in to preach my gospel even. I was looking at the Jesus the Christ by Talmage, I was reading the Bible and the Book of Mormon and I wasn't getting it. The windows of heaven were closed. And so I want to pause for a second and rewind. In 2015, this is all happening in 2017 and 18. In 2015, I started meditating on my chakras. I remembered the lessons from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I started really taking that seriously. So I was sitting in my room in the Hegvic's house in Lenexa, Kansas. And it was after my mission. I had come home and I moved back there to work with a buddy of mine named Dave. And I was staying in these wonderful people's house, and I was in the upstairs room and I started meditating on my root chakra. I wanted to see what it was all about. And I learned that you could take yourself into this void. You could basically relax your body and relax your mind and end up in this very, very beautiful dimension of total void. No light, no color, no sound, no thought, right? It was total void. One day I was able to open my eyes in the void, and I looked around and it was all dark, but I could see myself, so it was kind of light. It was just nothing. And then this little orange light kind of burst into flames in front of me. And I went out and I touched the light, and it became a person. It became this creature, this man who was in a super nice suit, had gold rings, was very, very, very handsome, but he didn't actually have a face. It was just blank. And he looked at me and he said, "You will never be as successful as me." And I remember thinking, whoa, like this person like is like a manifestation of this fear of failure that I have. Over the next 6 months, I had 7 other ethereal personages that would arrive in these meditations, and they would commune with me about my fears. One by one, I resolved each of them, and when it finally happened, I had this dramatic experience where all of the people became light, moved together, formed a white pillar of light, shot up into the sky. I remember looking in the void, looking up, and then it shot down into my spine, and I felt like I was going to get destroyed. And then I let a breath out, and I felt amazing. I felt this warmth in the very base of my spine. I felt my blood just pumping perfectly through my body, and everything felt right in the world. So that happened in 2015. Now, I went right back to church the next day and just kept on doing my thing. Hey, I had opened another layer of understanding in my spiritual journey. I then went to Hawaii, and I did a very similar thing with my water chakra in like my solar plexus and in my belly. And then I did the same thing with my what is this? The diaphragmal chakra, the middle chakra, chest chakra, heart. Was my fire chakra. I moved up to my fire chakra. Had another vision, and then I got married in the temple. Then I had a kid, and all, and now we're back on the story. So I'm struggling, having all sorts of issues with my beliefs, and so in the book of Enos, in the Book of Mormon, he says, "And my soul hungered, and I kneeled down before my Maker and cried unto him in mighty prayer and supplication for mine own soul. And all the day long did I cry unto him, yea, and when the night came, I did still raise my voice high, that it reached the heavens. And there came a voice unto me, saying, Enos, thy sins are forgiven thee, and thou shalt be blessed. And I, Enos, knew that God could not lie, wherefore my guilt was swept away. And I remember reading that and thinking, I'm going to go and pray all day in the mountains. So I jogged up to Pleasant Grove, Utah, where there's a big old G on the mountain. And I sat on this rock and I prayed all day until the night came. And the last thing that I said to God was, I have been a faithful servant. I ask nothing of you. I don't need you to appear in front of me. I don't need a miracle. I don't need a vision. I need comfort. I need love. What you promised your servants dozens of times throughout the scriptures. I need that. That you promised me. And here's the deal, like, if you can't fulfill your promises, then you're going to lose me as a servant. We're going to be done. Okay. So I walked down from the mountain and I went home and I told my wife, I don't want to go to church anymore. It's funny. She said, freaking awesome. She had been done for years. I didn't even realize it. She was going just for me. She's such an incredible freaking human. So this was 2019, finally. No, this is 2020, right? So the struggle really started 2017. I was searching through 2018, 2019. Yeah, so this was 2019, September, July of 2019. And we didn't go back to church. And I did ayahuasca October of that year. Had a crazy experience that I'll make another video about. But I realized that the Mormons, the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who have had spiritual experiences, have no idea what's out there. You don't even know. You can't even fathom the depths of what your brain is capable of producing. The feelings, way beyond what the spirit is, you just have no clue. The body is capable of producing incredible psychedelic experiences for you, and the spirit doesn't even touch it, whatever that is. And I got lots of thoughts on what that actually is in your body. I think that I can produce it inside of you, because ultimately, like, dimethyltryptamine is better than any book, spirit, prayer, speaking in tongues, any of it. It's all of it, all at once, everywhere. You see everything, all time, all dimensions, in a 6-hour trip where you're throwing up and you're humbled and you become something new. There is none of that. You cannot get that. You cannot get the chakra experience that I had in the church. And so why would I stick around for that? Right? It does not have the full truth. I have a testimony of these things. I have prayed to know if they are true, and I know that they are not. And so that's my story. That's how I left the church. I'll never go back. And honestly, like, anybody that asks me questions about it, I'm going to give them the honest truth. And I will never try to take away someone's faith. I think that faith as a concept is what every person needs to be able to have hope and to be able to have drive and ambition. I think they have to have faith that they're going to succeed and that they're going to be lifted up by people around them. But ultimately, me and the Mormon Church are no more. I will actively tell people to find other faith, because at this point now I've had a chance to go and look through all the literature and look at all the dates and look at all the stuff that Joseph Smith was up to, and it's not the vibe. He was a liar. He was a businessman. The church is $100 billion business with more land ownership than any other entity in the United States. They've avoided hundreds of, probably billions of dollars of taxes over the years, and it was all just a scheme. And so, if you're watching this and you're an active member of the church, ignore it, stick with it, live your life, have a wonderful time. But if you are even a little bit doubting, leave. There's way more out there. There is so much more out there. Like, Christianity as a religion at its base has not even a shred of all of the truth. And I think that Jesus was trying to tell everybody the real truth, and that it all got mucked up through translations and oral histories and all of the messy things that happen with human historical accounts. And I think that there's just a lot more to it. And I hope that everyone will come with me on the journey to find it, because yeah, we live on this beautiful mystical space rock, and I think that we could just be getting a lot more out of life if we just shred all of the ridiculous religious bickering and started to try to find the truth in all things. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope that you'll find your own faith. And if you have any deeper questions or follow-up, feel free to comment below or send me a DM. Thanks.